Right now, somewhere in the world, a regular person just put their entire savings into semiconductor stocks. They're not a Wall Street trader. They're not a finance expert. They're just someone who saw the numbers going up, heard the buzz about AI and chips, and thought, this is my moment. And what happens next to that person is something almost nobody is talking about. If you're interested in money, finance, or changing your financial future, like this video and subscribe right now, because what you are about to learn can change the way you see money forever. Let me tell you about a guy named Omar. Omar is a 28-year-old graphic designer from a mid-sized city. He is not rich. He makes a decent salary, shares an apartment with a roommate, and has been slowly, carefully saving money for the past 3 years. He reads about investing online. He watches videos like this one. And in early 2024, Omar did something that felt brilliant at the time. He took almost all of his savings and poured it into semiconductor stocks, specifically chip companies, because everywhere he looked, people were saying the same thing. AI is the future. Chips run AI. Chips are gold. Buy now before it is too late. And for a while, Omar felt like a genius. His portfolio was climbing. He was sending screenshots to his friends. He was doing the math on when he could quit his job. He genuinely believed he had figured something out that most people miss. But here's the part Omar did not see coming. And honestly, it is the part most investors right now are not seeing either. There's a very specific pattern in financial history that repeats itself over and over again. It is not hidden. It is not a secret. But most people only recognize it after it has already destroyed their savings. And semiconductor stocks right now are sitting right in the middle of that pattern. I will explain exactly what that pattern is in a moment, but first you need to understand why this moment in time is different from everything that came before it, and why the difference is exactly what makes it so dangerous. To understand what is happening with semiconductor stocks today, we have to go back to a moment that changed how the world thinks about technology investing. Imagine it is the late 1990s. The internet is new, everyone is excited. Companies with the word .com in their name are raising billions of dollars. A 22-year-old college dropout can start a website, call it something like petfood.com, raise $50 million and have people treat him like a visionary. The logic at the time felt unbreakable. The internet is going to change everything. Every company that touches the internet will be worth a fortune. Get in now before it is too late. Sound familiar? Here is what actually happened. Yes, the internet changed everything, but most of the companies that people bet their savings on in 1999 and 2000 went completely to zero. Not down a little. Zero. Gone forever. The ones that survived and actually changed the world, like Amazon and Google, did exist, but even those stocks fell 90% before they started climbing again. A person who invested at the peak of the dot-com bubble and held Amazon, stock had to wait almost 10 years just to break even. Think about that. 10 years of watching your investment do nothing while your bills kept coming every month. Now here is the uncomfortable truth, and I want you to sit with this for a second. The technology that people are betting on today, artificial intelligence, is almost certainly real. The revolution is real. The demand for semiconductors to power AI is real, just like the internet was real in 1999. The question that almost nobody is asking right now is not whether the technology is real. The question is whether the prices investors are paying today already reflect 20 years of future growth. And if they do, what happens to regular people like Omar, who bought in at the top? This is where things get really interesting and a little scary, depending on where you are standing. Let me explain what a semiconductor actually is, because this matters more than you might think. A semiconductor is basically the brain of any electronic device. Your phone, your laptop, your car, the data center that stores your photos in the cloud, the server that runs the AI chatbot you used last week, all of them run on chips made from semiconductor materials. Companies like NVIDIA, TSMC, AMD, Intel, and a handful of others make the specific kinds of chips that power modern AI systems. Now, NVIDIA in particular has become something almost mythological in investing circles. At its peak valuation, NVIDIA was worth more than the entire economies of most countries, one chip company, worth more than the GDP of entire nations. And here is the detail that should make you stop and think. A huge portion of that valuation is not based on what NVIDIA earns today. It is based on what people expect it to earn 5, 10, even 15 years from now, and this is where most people fail without even realizing it. When you buy a stock, you're not buying a piece of a company based on what it earns today. You're buying a piece of what the market believes that company will earn in the future, and when expectations get too high, too far ahead of reality, even a small disappointment can send a stock crashing. Not because the company is bad, not because the technology failed, just because the gap between expectation and reality closed a little. Think of it this way. Imagine you're standing in line to get into a new restaurant. Someone tells you the food is absolutely the best in the city. So you wait 2 hours in line, you finally sit down, the meal arrives, and it is genuinely good. Really good, actually. But it was not the life-changing best meal of your life experience you were promised. So you feel a little let down. The food did not get worse. Your expectations just got too high. That is exactly what happens to overvalued stocks. And right now, semiconductor stocks have some of the highest expectations built into them of any sector in the entire market. But here's what I really want you to understand, because this next part is the one almost nobody talks about. There is something called a valuation multiple. Do not let that phrase scare you. It just means how many times a company's annual earnings are investors willing to pay for the stock. If a company earns $1 per share and the stock costs $20, investors are paying 20 times earnings. Historically, the stock market averages somewhere around 15 to 18 times earnings. That is considered fair. When a sector gets really exciting, multiples expand. Investors pay 30, 40, even 60 times earnings because they believe growth will justify it eventually. Right now, some of the most popular semiconductor companies are trading at multiples that are historically extreme. We're talking about 60, 80, even over 100 times earnings in some cases. That means investors are so confident in future growth that they are paying prices that only make sense if everything goes perfectly for years and years without any major hiccups. And history has something very specific to say about moments like this. But I will get to that in just a second, because first there's one more thing you need to know about how we got here. In 2022 and 2023, something dramatic happened. ChatGPT was released to the public. Suddenly, artificial intelligence was not a science fiction concept anymore. It was something your grandmother could use on her phone. Within months, every major company in the world was announcing plans to integrate AI into everything, and they all needed chips. Specifically, they needed the most advanced chips NVIDIA makes, called GPUs, which are uniquely good at running AI calculations. Demand for these chips exploded. NVIDIA started reporting revenue numbers that were genuinely shocking. Quarters where revenue doubled, then doubled again. Companies were ordering chips so desperately that there were waiting lists. Tech giants were spending billions just to secure their supply. It felt like a gold rush, and NVIDIA was the only store selling shovels. So naturally, investors poured money in, not just into NVIDIA, but into the entire semiconductor ecosystem. The companies that make the machines that make the chips. The companies that design the software the chips run on. The companies that supply the raw materials. The whole chain lit up like a Christmas tree. And here is where Omar and millions of people just like him entered the story. When you see a sector performing the way semiconductors performed through 2023 and into 2024, there's a very natural, very human psychological pull toward it. It feels obvious. It feels safe. Everyone around you seems to be making money. Financial media is full of experts explaining why this time is different, why the old rules of valuation do not apply, why you would be crazy not to own these stocks. But what happened next changed everything, or at least it started changing in ways that most retail investors have not fully processed yet. The first warning sign is something called demand concentration. Right now, a huge percentage of the revenue flowing to chip companies is coming from just a handful of mega companies. We are talking about Microsoft, Amazon, plus Google, Meta, and a few others. These are the companies building the data centers that need thousands and thousands of advanced chips. And here's the question that should be keeping investors awake at night. What happens when those companies decide they have bought enough chips for now? Because here's the thing about building a data center. You build it, you fill it with chips, and then you use it. You do not need to keep buying thousands of new chips every quarter forever. At some point, the initial build-out slows down, orders get smaller. And if the chip companies have priced their stocks based on the assumption that this explosive demand level is permanent, even a slowdown, not a collapse, just a slowdown, can cause a significant price correction. And nobody is talking loudly enough about the fact that we are already starting to see early signals of exactly that. There is also something happening on the supply side that is flying under the radar for most people who are not deep in the industry. Other countries and other companies are racing to build chip manufacturing capacity. South Korea, the United States through massive government subsidies, Europe. China, despite export restrictions, is still pushing hard on its own chip industry. More supply means more competition. More competition eventually means lower prices, and lower prices can mean lower profit margins. Even for companies that are currently printing money, this is where everything changes. The story of semiconductors is not a story of permanent dominance. It is a cyclical industry, meaning it goes through booms and busts regularly. Historically, the chip industry has some of the most dramatic cycles of any sector in the economy. During the boom, companies cannot build enough chips to meet demand. Prices go up, profits explode, stocks soar. Then capacity catches up with demand. Suddenly, there are too many chips. Prices fall, inventories pile up, profits shrink, stocks crash. This has happened before, many times. And the people who got hurt the most every single time were the ones who bought in during the peak of the euphoria. convinced that this cycle was different. Let me tell you about another person. Her name is Priya. She is a 34-year-old nurse with 2 kids. She does not have a lot of time to research investments, but she knows she needs her money to grow because her salary alone is never going to be enough. She started hearing about semiconductor stocks from her brother-in-law, who made a lot of money in 2023. She started buying shares slowly, carefully, a little at a time, through an app on her phone, and she felt good about it. She felt like she was finally doing something smart with her future. Priya does not know about valuation multiples. She does not know about demand concentration or inventory cycles. She just knows the stocks went up and smart people on the internet said they would keep going up. And the scariest part of all of this is that Priya is not making a stupid mistake. She is making the most human mistake possible, which is trusting momentum without understanding the forces that create and then destroy momentum. And there are millions of Priyas out there right now. Here's the part most people never realize until it is too late. Markets do not fall because the technology fails. They fall because the price paid for the technology was too high relative to what it could realistically deliver. The dot-com crash was not caused by the internet becoming useless. The internet kept growing, but the companies built on the assumption of impossible growth either went bankrupt or spent a decade recovering. The people who lost their savings did not get them back just because they were right about the internet. Being right about the technology and being right about the investment are 2 completely different things. Right now, a growing number of sophisticated investors, not random internet commenters, but serious professional fund managers and analysts, are quietly starting to ask whether the AI chip boom has priced in too much perfection. Not because they doubt AI, but because they are looking at the numbers and seeing gaps between what the market is pricing and what is realistically deliverable. One of the most telling signals is what is happening with some of the big tech companies that are spending billions on chips. There have been reports of companies starting to question whether their AI investments are generating the returns they expected. Building and running enormous AI systems is incredibly expensive, and the revenue those systems generate, while real, has not yet matched the investment in some cases. If the companies buying the most chips start pulling back even slightly, the ripple effects through the semiconductor industry could be significant. But here's the thing I want to make absolutely clear, because this is crucial. I am not saying semiconductor stocks are going to zero. I am not saying AI is a scam. I am not saying you should never invest in technology companies. What I am saying is that there is a difference between a great industry and a great investment at any given moment in time. And the gap between those 2 things is where regular people lose enormous amounts of money while the technology itself continues to succeed. This is actually one of the oldest lessons in investing, and almost every generation has to learn it the hard way. The people who built enormous wealth from the railroads were not always the people who invested in railroad stocks during the railroad mania of the 1800s. The people who built wealth from the internet were not always the people who bought internet stocks in 1999. Sometimes the best investors are the ones who recognize a great technology but have the patience and discipline to wait for a better entry point. A moment when the expectations baked into the price are more realistic, and nobody talks about this part. There's a psychological concept called FOMO, which stands for fear of missing out. And it is one of the most powerful and dangerous forces in investing. When you see your neighbor, your coworker, or someone on social media making money in a particular sector, something deep in your brain starts sending alarm signals. It feels like you're falling behind. It feels like the train is leaving the station, and you're standing on the platform watching it go. The feeling is incredibly hard to resist. And the financial industry knows this. The entire advertising model of many investment platforms is built on amplifying that feeling to get you to act before you have time to think clearly. The antidote to FOMO is not indifference. The antidote is understanding. When you truly understand why a sector is performing the way it is, when you can separate the reality of the technology from the emotion of the moment, you can make decisions based on logic instead of panic. So let me give you the most practical insight from all of this, and then I want to come back to Omar and Priya to finish their stories. When evaluating any investment, especially in a hot sector, there are 3 questions you should always ask yourself. First, are the current prices based on what the company is doing today or what people hope it will do in the future? If the stock price only makes sense if everything goes perfectly for the next decade, that is a sign of extreme optimism priced in. Second, who is the current buyer driving up prices, and can that buying continue? If demand is concentrated in a few big spenders, a pullback from any one of them matters a lot. Third, what would have to go wrong for this investment to disappoint? If the list of things that could go wrong is long, or if even small disappointments could cause big price drops, you need to think carefully about how much risk you're carrying. These are not complicated questions. A 16-year-old can ask them. But most adults, most investors, skip them entirely because they are caught up in the excitement of the moment. Here is something uncomfortable to think about. The The people who are selling semiconductor stocks near the top of this cycle are not uninformed. They are not panicking. Some of them are the same people who told you to buy in the first place. This is a very old game in financial markets. Smart money buys in early, lets the narrative build, watches regular investors like Omar and Priya pour in money, and then quietly starts selling. Not in one big dramatic moment, but gradually, steadily, over months. By the time the average person realizes what is happening, the exit is already crowded. This is not a conspiracy. It is just how markets work. And the only protection against it is education. Now here is where we come back to Omar. Remember Omar, the graphic designer who put his savings into semiconductor stocks and was sending screenshots to his friends? Here's what happened to him. He did not lose everything. But in a period of heavy market turbulence tied to concerns about chip demand and valuation, his portfolio dropped by more than 30% in a matter of weeks. Not because anything about semiconductor technology changed, just because expectations shifted, and 30% of his savings, 3 years of careful discipline, evaporated in less time than it takes for a season of television to come out. Omar did not panic sell, he held on. But he also did not sleep well for months, and the psychological cost of watching that kind of loss, the stress it put on his daily life, his relationship with money, his ability to focus at work, that cost is real, even if it does not show up in a portfolio statement. And Priya, the nurse, she's still holding her semiconductor positions. She checks her app every morning before her shift starts. Some days she feels okay. Some days she feels a cold knot in her stomach that she cannot explain. She is learning, slowly, that the feeling of making money and the reality of sustainable wealth are not always the same thing. Here is the deepest truth from all of this, and it is one that the financial media almost never talks about because it does not generate clicks or ad revenue. Wealth is not built by chasing the hottest sector. Wealth is built by understanding value, managing risk, and thinking in longer time horizons than most people are comfortable with. The investors who consistently build real, lasting wealth are not the ones who find the next hot thing first. They are the ones who resist the temptation to pay any price for a great story, who understand that patience is a financial superpower, and who protect their capital first and worry about growth second. Semiconductors may absolutely be part of a smart, long-term portfolio. But there is an enormous difference between owning them at a reasonable valuation as part of a diversified strategy and betting your savings on them at peak euphoria, because the chart went up and Twitter was excited about it. Right now, the warning signs are there for anyone who is willing to look. Extreme valuations, concentrated demand, increasing supply competition, early signals of buyer hesitation from the biggest customers, a narrative so dominant that disagreeing with it feels socially risky. These are the ingredients of a correction, not necessarily a collapse, but a meaningful, painful, potentially portfolio-damaging correction for people who did not go in with their eyes open. The most powerful thing you can do right now is not to panic. It is not to sell everything. It is to understand what you own, why you own it, and what realistic outcomes look like on both the upside and the downside. Because knowledge is the only thing that gives you real options when markets get turbulent. You have a choice right now. You can keep doing what most people do, which is follow the crowd, chase the momentum, and hope that this time is different from every other time in history, when extreme optimism got ahead of reality. Or you can be the kind of person who actually learns from history, who asks the hard questions, who builds wealth not by being the most aggressive, but by being the most informed. Omar and Priya are figuring that out now. Some lessons in life are expensive. The good news is that you do not have to pay full price for this one, because you're watching a video like this instead of finding out the hard way. The semiconductor story is not over. The technology is real, the demand is real, and there will be enormous wealth created in this space over the coming decades. But not everyone who invests in it will share in that wealth equally. The ones who will come out ahead are the ones who understand the difference between a great industry and a great entry point, who know that even the best companies in the world can be terrible investments if you buy them at the wrong price, who have the patience to wait for the market to offer them something closer to fair value before they commit their hard-earned savings. That is the real lesson here. It is not about semiconductors specifically. It is about how you think about money, risk, and the stories the market tells you to get you to act before you are ready. Because in the end, the market does not care about your dreams or your retirement or your rent money or your kid's college fund. The market is indifferent. It will go up, it will go down, and it will absolutely create situations where every signal in your environment is telling you to do something that is quietly not in your best interest. The only protection you have is your own financial education, and that starts with moments exactly like this one, where you choose to learn something that most people around you are too impatient, too distracted, or too proud to sit down and understand. The warning signs are real. The risk is real. And so is the opportunity to handle it with wisdom instead of fear. If you learned something new today, make sure to subscribe to Money Insights and like this video. More powerful financial truths are coming next.